All right, let's get started. So I'd like to welcome everyone to Planning Council. I declare we have quorum, everyone's here, and I'll ask Mayor Alcock to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Miigwech.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see none. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public portion of today's meeting to consider applications to amend the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. The public meeting will proceed as follows. Staff will provide a brief explanation of the purpose and effect of the application, along with any correspondence received to date. The applicant or the representative may offer additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Members of the public attending in person or electronically will be invited to ask questions or provide comments. Council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, staff, or the presenters. After the public meeting is concluded, all input is received. Council will consider the proposed amendments. Any person making representation is asked to first state their name and mailing address, and please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. If Council approves any bylaw amendment applications this afternoon, a notice of the decision will be issued commencing a 20-day appeal period. During the period, and in accordance with provisions of the Planning Act, the applicant, the municipality, and eligible persons and public bodies may file an appeal. No building permits may be issued or any related work proceed during the appeal period. Anyone wishing to receive notice of a bylaw passage, any appeals or possible Ontario Land Tribunal proceedings must file a written request prior to the bylaw's passage. Requests may be filed with the recording secretary or the clerk. Each notice of complete application and public meeting included an explanation of the purpose and effect of the proposed amendment, and notice was required to be posted at the subject lands. Notice was therefore considered to have been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and applicable sections of the Huntsville Official Plan. And with that, we're going to move to our first item of business, which is our height and density policy. All right, the team's all here. You guys can go whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Through you, Mr. Chair, we're here today to present the height and density policy updates. And I just want to note that this item is on today's agenda for information only, as an opportunity to gather feedback and input. The proposed policy would only be applicable within the Huntsville urban settlement area and would only apply to the residential, mixed-use, and central business district designations in the official plan and the urban, residential, urban mixed-use, and central business district precincts in the community planning permit bylaw.
The proposed official plan and community planning permit bylaw amendments are intended to establish a clear framework for development proposals seeking increased height and density. The draft amendments were released for public comment on April 9th. The proposed changes include the introduction of new performance standards, suitability and hill crown mapping, community benefit provisions, new and refined definitions, study requirements, and a height and density review guide. While a detailed summary of these amendments was provided in the report, we will also provide a brief overview of the proposed changes. So I'll first provide an overview of the official plan amendment. So included in the OPA, the hill crown mapping is a proposed appendix, as you can see on the presentation slide. The map identifies the highest points of prominent hills. And the inclusion of this mapping helps to protect these distinct landforms, which are currently not addressed in existing policies, by ensuring that taller buildings are not considered in these sensitive locations. Further changes are also recommended to protect key landscape features through the introduction of new and refined definitions. Hill crown is defined to enable implementation of the hill crown mapping to protect Huntsville's unique slopes and varied landscape. A new definition for significant views is also included to ensure that the town's 23 identified views and vistas are protected when considering development that is proposed with increased height, and require that these views be evaluated through a landscape and visual impact assessment. Additional definitions for ridgeline and treeline are also proposed to ensure these important landscape features are clearly identified and consistently considered as a part of the planning review process. A requirement for visual, study requirement for visual impact study is also proposed to be updated to landscape and visual impact study, so landscape character is adequately assessed in provided assessments. In addition to these changes, the amendments also respond to Council's direction regarding community benefits. Following Council's direction in November, a land economics assessment was completed. The assessment found that current market conditions, including high construction and development costs, limit the feasibility to establish a fixed community benefit contribution rate at this time. In response, the proposed amendments include enabling policies to allow such contributions in the future if market conditions improve, while also allowing community benefit contributions to be considered on a case-by-case basis where they directly relate to the increased height and density. The amendments also update the terminology to align with the Planning Act by using the term facility services and matters for community benefits, and a pro forma analysis was added to the list of study requirements to allow us to further establish what that is. And lastly, the OPA proposes policies that would support on-site recreational amenities, enabling implementation of new performance standards in the community planning permit bylaw. Thank you.
So the proposed amendment to the community planning permit bylaw implements the policies that Kelsey outlined in official plan amendment 10. By adding the height and density suitability mapping as an appendix to the bylaw, updating general provisions to include new performance standards addressing requirements for setbacks, amenities, building and landscape design, introduce new provisions for community benefits, revise definitions, and add a height and density review guide. The amendment would also permit an increase in the maximum building height from 11 meters to 15 meters in highly suitable areas as identified in the suitability mapping. Respecting the proposed definitions, the terms finished grade, height, and story are existing in the bylaw and are proposed to be revised to ensure an accurate height calculation. Further, the terms listed on the screen, which include but aren't limited to hill crowns, multi-residential development height, mature vegetation, step back, all of those are being added to support the performance standards and the height and density review guide. The proposed performance standards are intended to provide clear, measurable criteria for standards to support built forms that integrate appropriately with adjacent properties, are compatible with the character and function of established neighborhoods, and optimize overall development functionality. Where a proposal exceeds 11 meters or 3 stories in height, the bylaw amendment proposed notes that the performance standards would apply. These standards include the items as listed on the screen. Regarding community benefits, and as noted previously by Kelsey as facilities, services, and matters, these continue to be determined on a case-by-case basis. Further, updates to study requirements in the bylaw support this, as staff are proposing a site-specific pro forma assessment prepared by a qualified professional be added to the list of study requirements to establish an appropriate monetary value for community benefits based on the lift value resulting from the increased height and/or density in the proposed development. The suitability mapping was developed as a tool intended to assist town staff and council in the review of proposals seeking increased height and density. Property owners, agents, and applicants are also encouraged to reference the map when considering such increases. And as previously mentioned, where property is identified as having high suitability, an as-of-right height increase to 15 meters shall be permitted, provided that an appropriate community benefit is secured. The suitability map is proposed to be included as Appendix E to the Community Planning Permit Bylaw and also includes the Hill Crown overlay. The amendments further introduce a provision stating that where development is proposed within a hill crown overlay, no increase to building height beyond 11 meters shall be permitted. And finally, the Height and Density Review Guide has been prepared to provide background on the criteria contained in the bylaw that is applicable to applications for increased height or density, outline the locations where these types of applications are appropriate, and clarify what plans and materials will be needed in support of these applications. The guide includes an overview of the suitability mapping, revegetation guide for landscape buffers, landscape visual impact study and significant views, performance standards, and facility services and matters for community benefits. The policy amendment that's proposed in the Community Planning Permit Bylaw is for the conformity with this review guide.
As noted earlier, the proposed amendments were circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. An open house was held on April 29th at Partners Hall with approximately 21 attendees. And additional written comments were received from members of the public, approximately 3 before the agenda posting. All feedback has been documented in the public comments and response table and will be reviewed and considered as a part of the refined proposed amendments. 3 additional comments were also received after the agenda posting and were emailed to council. These comments and additional comments received today will be reviewed and considered as a part of our review. District comments were also provided and emailed to council. District staff noted that this policy aligns with the district official plan and have no objection to the proposed amendments. At this time, staff are seeking council's direction on the proposed amendment, community planning permit bylaw amendment, and developers review guide. Once council's direction and public input have been considered and any necessary revisions have been made, the proposed amendments will be brought back to Planning Council for further consideration. Thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. All right, so this is our public meeting, so I'll invite anyone here in person to come forward first if you'd like to speak to this plan. All right. Welcome. Thank you. Can you turn your microphone on?
Is that on now?
Beautiful.
All right. Good afternoon, Your Worship, Mr. Chairman, esteemed councillors, and municipal staff. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this issue. My name is Mark Flynn, 608 Griffin Lodge Road, Utterson, Ontario, POB 1MO. I'm a former employee of the town of Huntsville, and I was a GIS application specialist in 2001. So I think it gives me a good, strong understanding of GIS and the planning. And I feel like I have a strong background to speak to this proposal. The issue of density, and height is all around our municipalities across Ontario, and then we struggle with them. How to be progressive, to bring prosperity and growth to our communities, yet maintain the very reason why people are drawn to our community: the trees, the rocks, the waterfront, and our rugged landscapes, and these wonderful views. How to find the balance. This balancing act falls on our councillors, and these are tough decisions. You need a tool. I believe this proposal is one of those tools. I'm in favor of this proposal. In favor because it is well conceived, thoughtful, well balanced, and founded on strong geospatial analysis. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge the hard and excellent work both of the planning department and the GIS department. Their work is second to none. The GIS analysis is really well done. I can't be sure, but I can bet we're probably one of the very few municipalities in Ontario that have gone and done this kind of analysis. Depth and range is incredible. This GIS team could take this work on the road. It could easily present their work at a conference as the best practices. Or this work could find its way into university textbooks as a case study. It is truly amazing, and given this proposal, it's an excellent, strong framework to stand on. In the past, councillors have had to weigh and hear from their staff, their citizens, and the developers. And not only that, sometimes the decisions which can be overturned by land tribunals. This is not an easy task. With best intentions, we can see that it doesn't always turn out the way we wanted it to. But this proposal gives the council a tool, an excellent tool, a tool that has been thoughtfully put together, put from the landscape plans to the performance standards, and lastly, the framework which stands on the suitability map. Now at a glance, councillors can gain great insight and knowledge into so much information and can make decisions that can achieve the balance that we all want. They make good decisions that are founded on excellent objective information, a decision that can be supported, that they can go in front of a land tribunal, their citizens, and the developers. But it doesn't stop there. This tool can also be used for developers to give them a tool in which they can make decisions on where to invest, to show the town of Huntsville is open for business in a progressive and sustainable way. We have found the balance between progress and maintaining a rugged and majestic environment. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's much appreciated.
Good luck.
Would anyone else present wish to speak to this? Mr. Bokelman, did you wish to speak?
Yes. Is there only two people who speak?
No. Anybody who wants to.
Okay. Mr. Stone, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Mr. Chair and councilors, how are you? Only two people know a little bit about me. And it's probably bad things.
All right, whenever you're ready. You've got 10
I'm ready.
minutes.
And does this thing work? Can you understand? Because I couldn't understand the thing. I try not to read off. I find it very hard, to read off. So I just stick to the headlines, okay? So I'm a recreational property owner. I've been coming here since 1968, when my wife was 18, and we attended the auction at the high school, okay? And we cut the trees, we dug the holes, and we built the house. So I am on both sides of what I call the divide. And I live here half of the year. I Airbnb my home, and you've been in my home, right? And you've been in my home, right? And was I polite? Oh, thank you. So I have many hats, because at 83, you will have many hats too, I'm sure. And you maybe already have many hats. So besides a property owner, I have been an artist since 1996. I graduated from OCAT in my 70s with the 20-somethings. And I paint, okay? That's all I do. And I don't make too much trouble anymore. So then, my other hat would be, I had a PhD from the University of Toronto in political economy in 1980, okay? And that's part of the one hat that I have that I rarely use, okay? I've also been invited to work in the quarry because I have something in common with them, they say. So it's another hat, right? And I have been a volunteer for almost 10 years at the food bank. And I am a donor, and I am called the artist in residence. I painted 70 of those people that are invisible to everybody else. And I will have an exhibition called Face to Face. So you can face those people the way they are. They're just like you, if you look at the painting anyway. So what I'm here for is to compliment Mr. Clark and his department for the work he did and for the time he spent to educate me and bring me up to date and to see whether I was manageable. So, and I have no objection. I'm not objecting to anything the department did. In fact, I like to compliment you on the work, but I want to go one step farther and look at a broader picture. I will never come back here again, okay? Ever. This is my first one and my last one. So I want to expand your vision and to continue to work. And rather than concentrating on the important parts, I want you to look at the whole picture, the holistic point of view. And that holistic point of view, in every municipality that I know of, is based upon a very professional master plan by consulting companies that do nothing but create a master plan template that then will be developed by the professionals like Mr. Clark to do the same thing that he has already done and that he can broaden and to have then a vision that is pertinent long after I am dead. That's what I'm here for. And I have children and grandchildren, and one of them owns a property here, just like me. So that son is a developer, but I'm not. So basically, I'm concerned for you to include those two most valuable sites that are 20 acres that are brown lands, okay? And these lands are extremely difficult to develop. The obstacles are immense. But I can take you on a tour of a company that has been doing this for 80 years, Waterfront Developments. The company is Slocker. There are more companies. I can take you on a bus tour. It costs $50 a person. And you can see what they have done. You wouldn't believe it. Unbelievable. And they have a different business model. They do not negotiate at the end. Everything is right up front. So you know what you're getting, and that's how they make their decisions for the shareholders. That's their business model. They pioneered it, but many people are doing it today. They're not the only ones. So I have the name of the two companies that cost $25,000 to give you a master plan. And if you don't have the money, I'll get the money for you. I also have a fundraising management certificate. I do, from the University of Laurentian University. I don't have the skills that young people have, but I have the other skills. So you need any help, I'll get you the money. So I want you to look at these two brownfields, 20 acres. There are two parts. There's the welcoming part, where you have an issue with the station, and you know the history of the station. I don't have to tell you that. I only want to say nice things. So I know what the current bylaw permits and what it doesn't permit, and I have no problem with that, but I like to have it tightened up to include the idea that you can establish a work-live arrangement on top of a certain commercial premise. Well, that has been around, that idea, for a long time. I would like you to expand this idea based upon a concept that has been developed in the Netherlands, where the idea of a wasteland or a town that is completely in crisis, they have reinvented themselves on those wastelands, and they created the new economy by a bylaw of 6,000 to 10,000 square feet, architecturally impressive design of the best architects that provide for living work relationships for the cultural, artistic, technical, creative people's economy. And that when you have the train coming here this year to the armpit of Huntsville, I'd like to see this area developed based upon a master plan and based upon Mr. Richard Clark's geotechnical expertise, and do his thing. But I do not agree with the piecemeal kind of step-by-step that doesn't provide you a holistic picture for the long term. I think it's something of the past, I think. You do what you can with what you've got. But I think the stars have aligned because there are three things happening that just came out of nowhere. And so I call these three conditions. One of them is the Northlander. This is a state of the art. You can be up and down in one day and live here, and you do all your work in the train because it's got everything that the most expensive aircraft has. It has everything. Your office is there. You're not wasting your time, or you can read a book. So that is one part of the stars that aligned. The other stars that aligned is that when you research the metropolitan area, which they call what is it called? The horseshoe? The horseshoe. Well, they're expecting 20 million people in Ontario by 2050. What this means that Huntsville, whether it likes it or not, is an exurb. People work here, and we want to attract the people here. We also want to expand the tourist economy away, not away from the old source of income, adventure travel tourism, but we want to expand what is already happening organically. And you had something to do with that. You should take credit. She has something to do for that. I don't want to tell you what some people call her, but I mean, she is doing her job. And I had something to do with that. That gallery, 3,000 square feet, would not be there without me. So I have worked on this with Heather together, like the odd couple, for a long time. And it's here. And so that is something you have to think about, that people are going to live here. And you attract those very smart people of the 21st century, and I'm not one of them, to come here and work here and provide them with an updated version of live work, which used to be called an industrial park. The industrial park. And you can do beautiful things. So that's number two.
So we're at 10 minutes now. If you
Oh
can,
my God.
If you can wrap things up.
Okay, so I wrap things up. I leave number 3 out, but it's called number 3, promoting the cultural economy, which you already know about, and it's happening slowly, okay? And it will, but we need more, and we need to attract those tourists that spend much more money. They spend so much money, more money, all year long. So the other thing, number 4, you can read it.
Well,
I'll give you a copy to read if you want.
we have all received both of your letters.
Oh, you've already read it.
And we're also internally investigating the lands around the train station and the comeback of the Northlander. So
So
that's
can you get a master
already
plan?
underway.
Can you get a master plan together?
Councillor Fitzgerald has something.
25, yeah, master plan.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for your passion,
Thank you for coming too.
and we'll take your money.
You take my money, yeah. If you do a master plan, you've solved the whole body, not just the parts. Anyway, thank you for your time.
One more thing, Mayor Elcock would like to speak.
Mr. Vogelman, I just want to say thank you for being here and providing all of that commentary. I read all of your comments earlier. I did, of course I did. But I know, well, that's me. But I do have a question. I do have a question. Are you making a distinction between a master plan, which I totally agree with you, that is absolutely essential, and an official plan? Because we are currently governed by a planning document called the official plan that sets out where we want to go for the next 10 years. And if you are making a distinction, I'd like to know. But if you're not, your timing is fantastic, because the next term of council will need to update their official plan. Yes, yes. Yes, and I agree with you about you have the official plan that does exactly what you suggested it should do, which sets all of this. So that, and then when the official plan is reviewed next time, it often looks at certain areas within the town, the municipality, that need more attention, like the the rail yards that you've talked about. And that's long-term. That sets out the next 10 years or more. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I just wanted to say.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bolkelman.
Only
Helena?
Helena can tell me to shut up. Only in Dutch, right?
All right. I will ask if there's anyone else present in the room that would like to speak to this policy. I see no one. If you're online, you would need to raise your electronic hand to speak.
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
No hands raised. All right. Council, comments or questions? I'm going to go to Councilor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I guess I want to echo comments from both Mr. Bolkelman and Mr. Flynn that the way our staff has handled themselves and the way they've created this map for us to follow is unbelievable. And I actually made a note when I went to the public meeting on April 29th. I made a note because I met Mr. Flynn and I said, he said to me, you could take this on the road. You could take this to any place. The work that has been done is such high caliber. You don't see this in regular municipalities. And I made a note in my little book here and I said, even Mark Flynn said that this is the best GIS, and he doesn't even work in GIS anymore. So I'm so glad that you came today. And the other, Mr. Mark Bolkelman, who came, yeah, he spoke about the same thing, that we have the vision and that I think the staff have done an excellent job, and I think they've given us the roadmap because they are tough decisions that are going to come forward for us to make in the next years. And I think given the roadmap that we've got, I think we'll be very equipped to make the right decisions. And it's exciting. It really is. So thank you, staff.
Yes, I will echo that. I would like to thank our staff and especially Kelsey and Madeline who have done the long, hard work. Thank you very much. It's truly one of the greatest things that we have done in this term of council, and our future generations will be proud of it. Mayor Alcock.
Okay, thank you, Chair Stone, and I certainly would echo all of that. I appreciate how much has gone into it, and I'm really proud on behalf of staff because I think it's a terrific body of work. My comment is it wasn't in the report, and I maybe there's a reason. The provincial legislation, Bill 98. Which makes significant changes to what municipalities are allowed to ask for of the development community. One of them being landscape and buffers. And I look at that and think, that's a significant part of our policy, that in order to grant an exemption to the height, here are the ways you can do it. And we devote, rightly so, a significant amount of time to that. So what's our strategy if this legislation comes forward and trumps this requirement?
Kelsey?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. Yeah, there's a lot of big changes within the bill. We have been looking into it internally, whether it impacts the community planning permit system and getting an opinion on that. I don't know if that's been finalized yet, but if it does impact it, we'll have to look at our policy a bit differently, and that's why we're bringing it first forward for information so we could kind of rejig things. One of the ideas was maybe having things within the guide, not as standards, but like things that are advisable that would make these more easy, balanced decisions. So not a requirement, but a recommendation of what we want things to look like. Yeah.
May I follow up?
Richard has a comment?
Okay. I also want to.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Also, what we've done is the commenting deadline for Bill 98 is actually tomorrow. And as you recall, at General Committee, we was that General Committee? in April, we brought forward a report on Bill 98, which included our comments. It's really tough because fundamentally what we're trying to do here is we realize we need housing. We realize that the construction costs make it very difficult to do housing in Huntsville without considering a need to go higher or more density. So as everyone's pointed out, we've come up with a playbook to do that. But some of the chief elements of how that playbook could work in Huntsville, with our concern about our visual impacts, it's almost like those planks of our policy are being taken away. So we have put comments out to the province. It's really important that we should be able to ask for visual impact studies. And so we've said that that's important for us, especially in our geography. And they shouldn't, that needs to be included. So hopefully that does get added. And then the other thing, as Kelsey's already pointed out, we are going to seek a legal opinion. And as council directed, we'll see if Lake of Bays wants to split the cost on that with us, but we'll be doing that shortly.
Okay, I thank you for that response. And just to wrap up at least this comment from my perspective, I agree with everything that you're doing, but I don't, just because that legislation is there, I would say continue to move along this direction as if it wasn't, because I think it's such an important pillar. You said that, Richard, to the policy, and it's a good policy. So until, well, in essence, I feel like let's cross that bridge when we get to it, if we get there. But in the meantime, we do all of the work getting the legal opinion, whatever. But I'd hate to see the policy weaken before we need to do that.
All right. I see no other hands, so thank you both. And I know Madeline's sticking with us for the next application, which is the 304 Ravenscliff Road.
Thanks, everyone. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 304 Ravenscliff Road. The lot is designated residential within Huntsville's urban settlement area and the official plan, and is under the urban residential low precinct in the community planning permit bylaw. An application has been submitted to construct a 350 square unit multiple residential dwelling containing 8 dwelling units on the property. To facilitate this, a community planning permit bylaw amendment is proposed to change the precinct on the lot from an urban residential low to an urban residential high with exception precinct. The exception would be required to reduce the setback to a public street for a refuse collection area from 9 meters to 7 meters. Also reduce the setback for a refuse collection area abutting a low density residential use from 10 meters to 3 meters, and increase the maximum area of the exterior side yard to 75% that can be used for a driveway. The lot is considered to be a corner lot, with the front lot line being along Marsh Road East and the exterior lot line being along the unnamed service road parallel to Ravenscliff Road, and the proposed building is oriented towards Ravenscliff Road. The proposed development will increase the permitted density on the lot and allow a maximum of 8 units, being compliant with the 60 unit per hectare high density calculation. The proposed building meets all setbacks and lot coverage requirements for the UR3 precinct, along with the required number of parking and landscape buffers. The proposal aims to utilize and enhance the existing parking and driveway area, and currently the parking area abuts the exterior side property line, which will be enhanced to provide adequate parking for the proposal. To ensure privacy is maintained, the existing fence along the interior lot line will be replaced just due to its unstable current condition. Regarding the refuse collection area, the proposed location allows for a separate entrance for garbage collection vehicles off of Marsh Road East, and it's located behind the proposed building and will be screened from view by a privacy fence from the abutting residential property and also enclosed. The urban residential designation generally encourages intensification through the built-up area and permits high-density residential such as low and mid-rise apartments where it can be demonstrated that the proposal addresses compatibility. In this instance, the development is within a transition area, bordering an industrial designation to the south and west, and to the north, a medium-density residential property, and to the east, low residential properties. The property is also close to town amenities such as Macaulay Robertson Park and transportation thoroughfares including Highway 11. The area appears to be appropriate for higher density residential uses based on the surrounding land uses. Additionally, the proposed development will offer 8 rental infill units within the Huntsville urban settlement area. Reviewing infrastructure was related to this proposal, so a functional servicing and stormwater management design brief was prepared, which outlined that the proposal can be appropriately serviced and stormwater management can be appropriately accommodated on the property. The town's operations staff have provided comments on the report, which can be addressed at the community planning permit stage. And in addition, a traffic letter was also prepared, which evaluated the projected traffic conditions and estimates that the proposed development is expected to generate a total of 3 a.m. and 4 p.m. Peak hour trips per day. Further, the letter also notes that direct parking access onto the unnamed road along the exterior lot line will provide adequate and acceptable operation of the site. And it was recommended in the letter that a stop sign be placed at the unnamed Service Road and Marsh Road East intersection. Further, respecting the unnamed service road, in circulation with the town's corporate services department, it's noted that that road will be named, and that will be part of the community planning permit stage in working with the developer. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. No public comments were received. District staff noted that they would not be opposed to the approval of the application, provided a connection permit for municipal water and sewer services is issued by the engineering department, and which can be addressed at the community planning permit stage. And overall, the application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial planning statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thanks for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments. And if they are online, they would need to raise their electronic hand.
Chair Stone, I don't see any hands
Nobody.
raised.
All right, council members, comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I think this is a perfect fit. That location is great. I'm just worried, concerned actually, or maybe you answer the question. There's no comments from MTO. There wasn't required any comments from MTO being so close to the highway?
Thank you for that, through you, Chair Stone. MTO did provide comments. They didn't have concern with the traffic brief that was submitted, but the property does require a land use permit from their agency. So the applicant will be required to submit something with them for their requirements.
Councillor Renwick, that's who you are.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I just wanted to echo as well that the fact that there are 8 units and the fact that they're called smart value units. It's what we need. It's a great fit for that area. So happy to see this happen. Yeah.
All right. I see no other hands. So moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Cloutier, be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment Application CPPA 07-2026 HTE, the purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the land from an urban residential low precinct to an urban residential high with exception precinct. 2, reduce the required setback from a public street to a refuse collection area from 9 meters to 7 meters. Reduce the required setback to a refuse collection area abutting a low-density residential use from 10 meters to 3 meters, and increase the maximum area of the exterior side yard that may be used for a driveway from 50% to 75%. all to permit the construction of a 350 square meter multiple residential dwelling containing 8 dwelling units on the property. Any comments or questions? All in favor? And that carries. All right. Madeline, you're staying with us for the 707 Muskoka Road 3.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 707 Muskoka Road 3 North. The lot is designated residential along the intensification corridor within Huntsville's urban settlement area in the official plan and is under the institutional with site-specific exception 0557 precinct in the community planning permit bylaw. A previous zoning amendment placed a site-specific exception on the subject lands to restrict permitted uses to a place of worship use and multiple dwelling use only. The current owner intends to convert the existing 162 square meter institutional building into a dentist office and 2 basement dwelling units. To facilitate this, a community planning permit bylaw amendment is required to change the precinct on a lot from an institutional precinct to an urban mixed use with site-specific exception X precinct, with the exception being required to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 1.8 meters for a 6 square meter deck addition, and reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.4 meters for a 24 square meter covered porch addition. As part of this application, previous site-specific exception 0557 will be deleted. To facilitate the reuse of the existing building, minor additions are being proposed that include decks and covered porches. The new site-specific exception, as mentioned, will cover these additions. The site layout will utilize the existing parking areas in the front and side of the building and provide the required landscape buffers as per the bylaw. Overall, the uses proposed and are captured under the mixed-use precinct and are compatible with the surrounding area. Non-residential uses within the urban residential designation are primarily small-scale convenience commercial uses that service the immediate residential area. The establishment of these uses may be considered provided that the facility will not have a significant increase in traffic, significant negative impact upon the residential character of the neighborhood, and the use and lot can accommodate the capacity to handle increased traffic. The traffic generated does not compromise the safety of residents or result in significant increase, and adequate buffering between residential and non-residential uses is maintained. In this instance, the proposed use for the subject lands is appropriate as it provides a health service establishment that can accommodate the surrounding community and is compatible with the surrounding area, and will offer 2 rental infill units in the Huntsville urban settlement area and provides as a transition area. In regards to infrastructure, a stormwater management and construction mitigation report was prepared, which outlines that the proposal can be appropriately serviced and stormwater management accommodated. Further, the town's operations department has reviewed this and comments can be addressed at the permit stage. A traffic letter was also provided, which evaluated projected traffic conditions and estimates that the proposed development is expected to generate a total of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. peak hour trips per day. And the letter notes that a single ingress and egress will provide necessary capacity to facilitate traffic movement, and it's recommended that the site access be paved within the district right-of-way, and the entrance should be expanded to 7.2 meters. The remainder of the site access is noted to remain as gravel, and that's adequate. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. No public comments were received. District staff noted that the application appears to conform to their OP, and they would not be opposed to the approval of the application, provided that a connection permit for municipal water and sewer services is issued. Overall, the application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial planning statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments. Hi, come on down.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Council, and attendees. My name is Major Catherine Best, and I reside at 737 East Wasiosa Lake Road in Huntsville. I'm currently a dental officer in the Canadian Armed Forces, where I've had the privilege of serving for the last 16 years. And I am looking to retire and settle down myself in Huntsville. My husband is also a practicing dental specialist in town, and we are blessed to have 4 young, beautiful children. So there comes a time when you have to choose between your career, unfortunately, and your family when you're in the forces. I've spent the last 4 years living distance from my family, and now it's time for us to be at home. So I am looking for my retirement plan. I'm looking to settle down and use my skills in the community to provide treatments and assets that the families of the community would benefit for. When I saw the 707 property, I first thought, wow, this needs a lot of work. But the bones of the building, the size, the structure, everything can be done within the current layout of the building. No expansion besides the patios will be necessary. And I just see an underused property that's not really benefiting the community in any way, not contributing to property taxes. And I think that it's going to bring a lot of value to the community. It's going to look beautiful. I was hoping that we might have some pictures. I didn't bring them of what it's going to look like afterwards. But the access is going to be ideal for patients, no stairs or elevators. It's along one of the 3 main arteries in and out of town, and it's got ample parking. My children all go to school just less than a kilometer down the road, and I just see it fitting in perfectly with my vision for my future. So with the exception in place, unfortunately, well, the institutional precinct allows health services. However, with the exception, it can only be a place of worship with the apartment. So I am really happy with the help that I've had from the city. They've really guided me in the right direction. And my planner, Lanny, unfortunately wasn't able to make it today, but he's been a great support in being able to guide me with the whole process. And yeah, I'm just really hoping that for this opportunity. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for all the background. I love it. I think it's going to be a wonderful fit. At this point, I'm going to go to the public. Anyone that would like to speak to this application, either present or online, you'd need to raise your electronic hand.
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right. Council members, comments or question? I'm going to go to Mayor Erlcock first.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I'll be very quick. Thank you for your service. I have to say that. Really important. I just love this application. I think it's a great fit. I love seeing a conversion and the fact that it's 2 rental units as well. Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Council Clerk?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This is definitely an underused property, and you're right, it does need a lot of work. I've been in it personally myself, so, but I'm happy to support your application. And I wish you much success and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. Taking all the glory away. Thank you for service. I'm just curious, the apartments, love it. We need those, absolutely need them. I'm just curious if they're going to be attainable or are they going to be at market rate for residents?
They will be attainable. I actually have my dad that lives in town, he lives above our apartment. I'm thinking of possibly there is going to be a bachelor unit, which will be the opportunity for potential growth of the practice in the future. And then there's a 2-bedroom apartment. So I have a lot of friends and family that are desperate in the community to have a safe place to live. And, that's my goal, is to provide affordable housing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. Huntsville Hospital is just up the road from me, and they're always looking for places for traveling nurses and
Yes.
doctors, so you might want to reach out to
That's
them.
what
too
I
and
was
let them-
thinking too as well. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Councilor Renwick?
Thank you, Chair Stone. And just a quick a comment and a question. Welcome to Huntsville. I think this is great. I fully support this as well. My question is, because it's designated institutional, would it go back to, it's now reverted to something, would it ever go back to institutional or would it go to no? Once that designation is taken off, then that's it, right?
Madeline?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone. So the designation is actually residential, but the original zoning on the property was institutional, but the site-specific exception was added. So the previous uses that would have been captured under the institutional zone and also the institutional precinct don't apply because of the wording of the exception. So the exception is really clear that states the only uses are place of worship and a multiple dwelling. But in this instance, it seemed the better fit to make the property urban mixed use to allow for a number of different uses as well as the 2 residential units. So it just captured the proposal.
That would be in perpetuity then, so whatever.
Yes, sorry,
changes,
that
yeah.
was the piece I missed out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
through you, Chair Stone, it would be in perpetuity.
Thank you. That's great.
All right, I see no more hands. Moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment Application CPPA 09-2026 HTE. The purpose and effect of which to change the precinct on the lot from an institutional precinct to a mixed use with site-specific exception precinct, to reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 1.8 meters for a 6 square meter deck addition only, and reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.4 meters for a 24 square meter covered porch addition only. All to permit the conversion of an existing 162 square meter institutional building into a dental office and 2 basement dwelling units. And further, that previous site-specific zoning exception IN 0557 be deleted from the lands. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that carries.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings to be concluded. We'll now move to the non-public portion of the meeting. And Madeline, you're still with us for the Jardine Investment, Inc. application.
Last one for me today, I promise. But not the last one on the agenda, that's for sure. And thank you, through you, Chair Stone. The subject property is located at 2483 Old Muskoka Road. The lot is designated community residential within the Utterson Community Settlement Area in the official plan and is under the community residential precinct in the community planning permit bylaw. A public meeting was held respecting this application on March 11th, 2026. At that meeting, the item was postponed for review of public comments. Members of the public provided written and oral comments for council consideration, and issues related to water supply, location of refuse collection area, adequate parking, and privacy were identified as matters requiring further consideration. The applicant has responded to concerns raised by the public, council, and staff in a comprehensive response package containing 2 comment response tables, which were included in the report. Additionally, the applicant has slightly revised the proposed site layout respecting parking, which shows 1 additional accessible parking space being provided and 3 additional parking spaces that the site can accommodate if needed. Respecting the refuse collection area and the privacy fence, the applicant has chosen to keep these consistent with the original proposal, as the location of the refuse collection area appears to be appropriate given the proposed parking area function, and the privacy fence shall be erected along this area for maintaining privacy from the neighboring lot. The refuse collection area will also be required to be enclosed, just furthering that visual screening. Staff have reviewed the response package respecting water supply, and based on the responses provided, it appears there is sufficient water capacity to support the proposed use without impacts to adjacent wells. And it's staff's understanding that the hydrogeologist is online and available for to come and speak. Additionally, 2 additional letters of objection were received from neighboring property owners and included in the report package. And through staff's review and analysis, the application appears to meet the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial planning statement. And as such, staff are recommending approval of the application. And thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant, the representative, or the hydrogeologist to speak to this application. Welcome. Need your turn the mic on?
We're good. Okay. My name's AJ Jardine. My wife Trish and I are the owners of this proposal. So the proposal is for the former school property at 2483 Old Muskoka Road. As a co-owner of Genesis Electric, a residential electrical business based out of Port Sydney and operating across Muskoka for the last 5 years, I'm a proud member of the community and committed to seeing it grow and prosper through the responsible execution of my proposal. Our proposal is to adaptively reuse the existing school building to create 10 long-term rental apartment units while maintaining the property's current aesthetic and Muskoka character. The plans before you reflect that intention through features like board and batten siding, tree preservation, and maintaining the feel of the existing site rather than overdeveloping it. Throughout this process, the technical studies have been very favorable, which has given us confidence that this is an appropriate and responsible project for the property. Part of what encouraged us to pursue this development is that both the federal and provincial governments are actively supporting the conversion of existing institutional and commercial buildings into long-term rental through the current GST-HST purpose-built rental housing rebate framework. Those policies were designed specifically to encourage projects like this, projects that create stable housing while giving new life to existing community buildings. We are committed to completing this project responsibly and operating it as a long-term rental housing that fits within the existing community character. We appreciate the opportunity to be here today and respectfully ask for your support in allowing this property to continue serving the community in a new and positive way.
Thanks very much. So I understand the hydrogeologist is online, probably to answer questions. I wonder if he could answer a simple question. Can we bring him in? Him or her, sorry. Hello there. I can see you.
Hello.
Oh, you're here. We can hear you too. All right. So the question on everyone's mind is, will the water usage and well hinder the neighboring properties' water use consumption in any way?
Yes. Okay, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. And so through you, Chair Stone, this question is a good one. Obviously, water is essential. The well that we tested was a very good well, provided a very ample amount of water for this development, with very little drawdown in the test well itself. The chance of impact to additional or neighboring drilled wells will be very low. Radius of influence will be not very extensive, probably within 100 meters or so. And any impact to shallow dug wells is not a concern at all. The drilled well is drilled to 100 feet. The dug wells that we monitored were, within 10 to 15 feet of surface, founded on top of bedrock. I know we did have a message or a comment in the report about a drawdown in one of the dug wells, and that when I went back to look at some of that data, it was actually less than what was reported. So it looks like it could have been use, and the owner of that well did indicate that they used their well during our test. And there was another well that did end up going dry I guess it was about 2 weeks after our pump test was conducted, and they suggested that maybe the well was affected by the pump test, but there's really no evidence to suggest that. So maybe it was a dry summer and all of those other factors, but certainly it wouldn't have been from our pump test. So to answer your question, there should not be any reason that this well would hinder any other wells in the area.
Thank you. That's the answer we were hoping for, and we do rely on experts to bring us this information. I'll go to council. Does anyone else have questions for the hydrogeologist? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks for your information on this. I just wondered, do you think there'd be any seasonal fluctuation in the water table at all with for the neighbors or for that well?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone. I do think that there'll be seasonal fluctuations with the dug wells. Absolutely. Considering that we conducted the pump test in late September, I would expect that water levels in the dug wells would be at their lowest. I would also suggest that drilled wells would be lower than springtime conditions. However, they're getting water from a different aquifer, a different source that's been there for many eons. Dug wells are far more reliant on seasonal precipitation. Not all dug wells are that way. They may have some groundwater source, but they do typically rely on seasonal inputs. So there would be some seasonality to it. But the fact that we conducted that test in September, it would have been the driest period of last year's drought. So it did very well.
Councillor Schumacher.
I believe the one was a drilled well as well, not just a dug well, that did go down. I think Dan and Cherry's is a drilled well as well. But so the dug wells and the drilled wells, I do understand the dug wells get a spill off. So you've got the creek that runs behind Wags. You've got Billy Bowles Pond that has, evaporated over time. The way the environment has changed, I do believe we are seeing less and less water kind of coming through, where things are drying up on a more regular basis. Will that impact as well? And I guess it doesn't impact the property, but I'm looking at people's dug wells are going to have less and less over time to begin with.
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Chair Stone. I mean, it's really difficult to speculate. Certainly there seems to be drought in some areas of the country, and then other areas seem to have more intense storms. So it's difficult to speculate, what some of the environmental impacts will have on some of the shallow systems. Again, the drilled well is pulling water from a different aquifer that's being supported from water resources that have been there for eons. So yeah, I don't think there's any hindrance of the dug well with our shallow groundwater regime in that location. So I'm not sure if that helps to answer your question at all, but that's a very challenging question to answer.
Thank you for that. Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Just a quick question. I recognize this is a different use, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. With respect to water issues, were there ever any issues with water consumption with the when it was a school, or are we just looking at it now?
Thank you for the question.
Well, I was thinking if maybe in some of the public meetings, if there were ever any neighbors who had complaints, or no?
Madeline, do you have any idea?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone. It's taxing my memory a little bit, but I think it was in 2022 that we did a minor variance for the school property. And I don't believe water supply was a concern at that point in time, but yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And it's in the report, but I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the water that was pumped from the applicant's well. And I understand it was a lot more that was pumped than what would actually be used in a daily, on a particular day. So I just wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure, thanks for the question. Through you, Chair Stone. So we definitely try to figure out what the water supply might be for a development like this, and considering the number of bedrooms, typically +1. For a development like this, 275 liters per day is the number that we would generally use. Calculated, I think it was a little bit over 7,000 liters per day. We pumped 10,000 to give us a little bit of buffer, in a 6-hour period. So certainly pumped far more than would be typically used. I think when you start to consider developments with low flow shower heads and toilets and such. The general, typically daily use will be even less than 7,000 liters, in my opinion. This well can certainly produce more than enough water to support even a more busy day of water consumption. Maybe they have laundry on a weekend or such. So it was a very good well. Like I said, it drew down only about 3.5 meters, so about 11 feet. And there's still, almost 20 meters of available drawdown with this particular well. So, and it recovered as well to about 97% before we stopped our measurements, and well in advance of a full day. So it's a very good well.
All right, Councillor Morrison?
Thank you, Chair Stone, and through you. I guess more of a comment about process moving forward, but also a little bit about this. I guess the concern I have is from the last meeting to now, there hasn't been any more analysis of the wells. Like we have some opinions and whatnot, but no actual verification. And I still feel a bit weary of once it's done, and worried about the dug wells and drilled wells of the people in the neighborhood. And yes, letters were sent out, but I wonder if that's enough. And in the future, should there not be people knocking on doors? Because I get letters all the time that sometimes get buried, and 3 weeks later, I realize I had a piece of mail that I should have gotten to earlier. And having the low response rate of the people who got the letters about the wells concerns me. It makes me think that maybe that's not the best way to do it for the future. So that's my future question. My current question is I still having some apprehension about the water, and I'm having some worries about the impact it could have on the neighbors. And this is coming from a person who absolutely wants all 10 units. I think the units are suitable there. I think we need them in Port Sydney and Utterson, but I'm still having some issues with the water in my thoughts right now.
All right, thank you for that comment. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I guess that brings a question out. I don't know if anybody can answer. What if nearby wells end up going dry later on? Like, can anybody answer that question, or is that, can anybody come back and claim anything? Just curious.
There was a response to my comment in
Yeah.
the package with regards to people are responsible for their own wells. But if they could prove it was on the developer, then they can go back to the developer on repercussions.
All right, we're going to leave that there.
Correct.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Stone, and thanks for the report. I too do as well have concerns about the neighboring wells and the lack of data over the surrounding wells that supports the study that was done. Our hands are almost tied here. We're not in a good situation. I agree with Councillor Morrison moving forward that we should set parameters on data that's collected for these studies, and they have to meet certain criteria so we don't end up in this situation again. I don't know if I can support it just based on the water. I agree we need 10 units, but are they in the right place with the water situation?
All right, can I ask you to describe the standards? Provincial standards?
Is this for testing? Are we talking about? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so through you, Chair Stone. So we do follow the D55 protocols for this type of water supply testing, which stipulates that the testing needs to be carried out over a constant time. It's a 6-hour test. It has to be a constant rate with water samples. We try to get as many participants to monitor for interference. In this case, it was lower than typically what I see. More like 20% is what I would see. So we were lower than that. Just in reference to one of the previous comments, we used to do door-to-door. With COVID, we got away from that. People did not want us coming on their properties. So unfortunately, we no longer do that. We mail out letters a couple weeks in advance. And unfortunately, we didn't get very many responses in this case. So that is one of the reasons. Unfortunately, we just can't start monitoring wells unless we have authorization to do so. We didn't receive any even phone calls or emails back about it, so it was rather unfortunate from that perspective. But the standards, yeah, like we do follow a guideline that tells us this is what you shall do, and that's what we follow.
Thanks very much. Councillor Schumacher.
Follow up to that, the time you mailed out, there was a postal strike on. Do you guys have a backup plan that if there is, Canada Post seems to be going straight quite often, do you have a backup plan in those cases? Because that's probably why you got lack of involvement, is many people did not get their mail during that time period.
Through you, Chair Stone, no, we don't have a backup plan for postal strikes. I know some people did respond, so it's hard to know maybe how that all played out, but no, there's no backup plan in that instance.
All right. No, I'm sorry, it's not a public meeting. All right. Madeline, you have something to add?
Sorry, Chair Stone, the applicant is just wondering if they could add a comment, but I'll leave that.
The applicant wishes to make another comment? Quickly, if you would. Go ahead.
Just in sorry, again, through you, Chair Stone. Just in response to the mail, so I have had a conversation with a neighbor after the well study was done and everything, that they and a number of other neighbors they had spoken to had refrained from answering or being a part of the test due to they thought the test was being done by the city, and there's a number of works being done in their homes that aren't permitted, and they didn't feel like they wanted to bring anyone into the property. So I do know that there has been other received notices, unfortunately. I'm not sure that that responds to everybody mail-wise.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Mayor Alcock? No? Go ahead.
If I may,
Yep.
I just am curious, for those that are, think that having 10 new units is a great idea, and I think it is too. I like that. But are hesitant because of the water issues. If you're thinking of an alternative approach here, or if you've thought of anything else as to a way forward, that's all.
Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. I see everybody's hesitation here by rights, but I mean, there's lots of subdivisions that we have in towns, close houses, lots of wells on Smalley. In this issue that was brought up, that if the neighbors do have problems with their well because of this, they can go back on the developer. They don't have to come, they can't come back on us, they have to go back on the developer. So the hesitation, any liability of that is, we've made the applicant do the work and get the tests, and they've all passed. So, I mean, what more can we do? So, but in the long run, they can come back on the developer if they have problems with the well. And we're also providing 10 new units, probably into an area where there's a lot of younger families that live out in that area, want to live close to their parents, and they can't. They have to either move to Barrie or really, or up here. This way here they can move and live in Utterson, probably where they grew up, and be close to their family. So I'm supporting it the way it is.
Thank you. I agree. The due diligence has been done. The testing was more water than probably the daily usage would be, and it seems very much appropriate to rely on the experts that actually know what they're doing about the water flow. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, Yeah, I guess just in response to Mayor Alcock's question about, because I want these 10 units and I think these guys are going to be really good developers and landlords. But I really have trouble with the answers I'm getting from the expert here of, you know, COVID happened and now we can't knock on doors. Like we can't keep blaming COVID for why we're not doing stuff properly. And when you get a result that's that low and you acknowledge that it's not what you're used to, I think that tells you didn't get enough response. And I would like to say that a 2 weeks notice in the mail when you're about to test in 2 weeks is not much when you really think of it. So yes, the due diligence has been done, but can we do this in a way that prevents some potential bad blood down the road? And the time to do it would be now. If we look at it as, yes, they can come after the developer, but do we want it to get to that? Wouldn't we be better to do it right? Make sure everyone's happy, make sure that you can satisfy the neighbors that this well is never going to impact your well before it goes forward. Other than that, we're just passing the buck. And then if they go after the developer and the developer's insurance looks at a town hall meeting where a planning meeting where we got told by an expert that we had a very low response to the testing of the wells when the testing was done, and we still let it go through, I worry about that from liability on the town's perspective. So I just see a lot of gray area here, and I'd rather slow it down. And that's not like me.
Can I ask the hydrogeologist to describe the aquifers? Is there water at two different levels?
Okay, so thank you for the question through you, Chair Stone. So we're talking about the dug well versus the bedrock aquifer. So yes,
Yes.
they're definitely two different aquifers. You know, you've got the shallow dug wells that are receiving water above the rock within the overburden, versus the bedrock that's receiving water from within fracture networks that are within the rock itself, which is separate from the shallow overburden.
Thank
So
you.
completely separate.
Thank you. Manager Clark?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure exactly where this discussion is going, but I do see that there's not quite everyone seeing it the same way. But to Mayor Alcock's question, I guess the direction I think she was going is there anything that this applicant can do to ease people's mind that this development can go ahead? The studies have been done. Maybe there's still some questions about the results of the study, but is there anything that can be done so that in the event that a concern is observed, that mitigation can be put in place? So maybe the question for the hydrogeologist is about whether there are mitigation measures that can be implemented should a concern arise, and whether or not those are something we should be considering now, or those are something we can make a condition of approval that those mitigation measures be investigated and implemented. I wonder if that's a way that might help this table get their heads around this.
It's a tough question. Do you have an answer?
I can comment on it through you,
please do.
Chair Stone. I mean, there are situations that I have personally seen when you're conducting a pump test and the neighboring well has the exact same drawdown as where you're pumping. Okay, so you know, you can have a mitigation strategy to reduce that and even basically eliminate it by constructing a system that trickles the water into a tank, and it would be, you know, it's going to need treatment anyways in this situation. It's going to have to be regulated. But it almost eliminates the drawdown by just trickling the water into the tank over time. And in that case, there's zero impact to neighboring drilled wells. There's just because it's such a slow rate. So there is stuff like that that could be done. That's maybe a suggestion that could be taken back to my client to talk about.
Councillor Schumacher.
Sorry, through you, Chair Stone. Yeah, And I guess, is there a statute of limitations when we talk about how far down the road somebody's looking at their well? My question is too, is it this developer that it goes to? I mean, I understand AJ, you've lived there, you guys, Trish, have lived there a couple of years. If you turn around and sell this, which I understand is what your plan is, then does it go to the new owner or does it go to the current developer is the issue?
I really don't want to get into hypotheticals like that. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I just wanted to get back to Councillor Morrison's comments, and I just wanted to ask you if, you know, what you might be suggesting to move this forward. Are you suggesting that the well study be redone with more participation, or I just wanted to see what you thought?
Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I think that'd be a suitable answer. I mean, I think I want these units and I want these guys to build them. I think the 10 units work there, but I don't want to set up conflict when we might have a solution in front of us to prevent it. So maybe there's 3 or 4 neighbors that would like to have another well test done. I hate adding costs and studies and time to development. I'm against that in principle. But I just don't want to approve this, kick it down the line, and 6 months later, we're at this table hearing about complaints and neighbor conflict and yelling and screaming and all that stuff. I think we could avoid that. So, yeah, I think that would be a solution if the applicant's up for it.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, the only problem I see with that is how can we guarantee the participation would be there? I mean, I don't disagree with you, but that would be the concern I have about going that direction, right?
And I guess the answer to that is we could set a minimum standard or set a timeline that is suitable, that it gives everyone enough time. And if they then choose not to participate, then we've done our part and the applicant has done their part.
So I don't know if I can kind of jump in and comment a bit more, but
Yes, please.
I mean, I think that it's just very difficult because people are very hesitant about letting anyone go into their well, and if you're setting up this this type of strategy, I mean, it may work, it may not work. I mean, I've seen places where nobody participates and they're not interested. I feel like people should have responded, even if there was a mail strike. There was nobody that even commented to us or called us. So it's very difficult to conduct a study like this where people are not participating. This well is a good well. It's not going to impact anybody's dug well for sure. Any drilled wells, any impact would be very, very minimal at all. So, you know, the study has been done, and you know, I think that it shows the results of a good well. But
I suspect if someone's well went dry when we did the test, we would have heard about it.
For sure.
Councillor Cloutier.
Through you, Chair. As far as participation goes, we're a very small neighborhood out there in that area. I'm sure if something's going on at this house, the other house knows what's going on in there. And there has been some neighbors that have come forward, so I'm sure they've gone and talked to everybody that's been in there. By the sounds of it, it sounds like everybody had got their letters for participation and they didn't. So we have yet to hear people that haven't got their letter, but I mean, the applicant has talked to the neighbors. Obviously, the applicant is working with the neighbors if something happens, but the big thing here is you can't go back and do this over again and force people to do something that in the first place they didn't. Like, I understand Mr. Morrison's point, but to go back and do this all over again for what, a participation rate of maybe a couple more, but only because their hands might be pushed or tied, that's all.
All right, I'm going to call the question. Moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Plan Permit Bylaw Amendment Application CPPA 04-2026 HTE, the purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the lot from a community residential precinct to a community residential with exception precinct to permit a multiple residential dwelling as an additional primary use, permit a maximum of 10 dwellings on the property, recognize the location of an existing driveway and parking area being 0 meters from the south interior's lot line, reduce the required setback to a refuse collection area from 10 meters to 3.4 meters, reduce the required landscape buffer along the aisle and parking area abutting the south interior lot line from 3 meters to 0 meters, and require that a privacy fence be installed along the south interior lot line adjacent to the parking area and driveway aisle, all to permit the conversion of an existing institutional building on the property into a multiple residential dwelling containing 10 dwelling units. Any final comments or questions? Councillor Schumacher.
I will be voting against this. I'm a strong believer in what's good for my neighbor is good for me, and this is not good for the neighbors. They have addressed it time and time again. I'm not opposed to units there. I'm opposed to the number of units and the parking spaces not being equipped to the amount of units there. So I will be voting against this for respect of my
All right.
neighbors and my community.
Thank you very much. All right. All in favor? All opposed? I vote in favor. It passes. All right. Moving on to the West Fox Lake Road application. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. We're done. Lisa, you're speaking to the Fox Lake application. All right.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Stone. The subject property for this application is 311 West Fox Lake Road. Oops. The property is within the waterfront area in the official plan and the waterfront residential 60-meter WR1 precinct in the community planning permit bylaw, with natural constraints 2 indicating steep slopes. The property is accessed via West Fox Lake Road, which is a year-round municipal maintained local road. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit the construction of a 20.4 meter square dock and to recognize existing non-complying structures, being a 35.7 meter square deck with an 8.7 meter square porch and an 11.2 meter long retaining wall. A Class 3 council variation is required to increase the maximum permitted accessory coverage from 5% to 8% for the proposed dock, and to recognize existing non-complying structures being the front deck and porch. So I've just circled that in red there. To increase the maximum permitted shoreline activity area width from 7.85 meters to 12.4 meters for the proposed dock, and to recognize the existing retaining wall. So that's circled in red there. And to reduce the northern interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.2 meters to recognize the existing deck and porch. So that's circled in red there. Please note there was an error in the previously noted variations required in my report. Fox Lake is not a cold water lake, so the previous variation to reduce the setback from a cold water lake does not apply, and an amended resolution has been prepared to remove that variation for today. Although the applicants are proposing to build a new dock, aerial imagery confirms the shoreline has been in its current configuration since at least 2008. The applicants have agreed to build the new dock in a different location than the existing in order to reduce the shoreline activity area and improve the shoreline buffer, bringing the property into closer conformance with the current lot standards. Similarly, there has been a deck and porch in the existing location since at least 2008. However, the town does not have a record of these being formally approved, so additional variations have been included to recognize these structures and confirm their locations for record-keeping purposes. And the application was circulated in conformance with the community planning permit bylaw and the and the Planning Act. Comments were received from the neighboring property owner to the north, just stating that she would like a vegetative buffer between the structure that's close to her property. And she did have concerns about the shoreline activity area. However, I discussed those with her, and she's in agreement with what's been proposed. And staff are recommending approval of the application, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments if they wish. If they're online, they need to raise their electronic hand.
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right. Council, comments or questions? You're all talked out. All right, the resolution in the package is quite long, and I'm not going to read it. However, we are going to remove item number 3 from the resolution because it's not a cold water lake and doesn't need to be set back 30 meters. So I will read the amendment. Moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour, be it resolved that the following item be deleted from the first paragraph. Number 3, reduce the minimum required setback from a cold water lake from 30 meters to 22.7 meters to recognize an existing 35.7 square meter deck and a 8.7 square meter porch. All those in favor of the amendment? And that carries. And now the main motion as amended. All in favor? And that carries. Main is amended. All right. Oh. All right. So our last item, which isn't on the agenda, you all know that we just came out with our secondary residential dwelling units, which are pre-prepared and ready for people to purchase, and they don't have to jump through so many hoops or go to so much expense to get an additional dwelling unit on their property or attached to their home. So who is going to speak to this and give us a brief update? You will?
Kirsten.
Kirsten is. Kirsten's online?
Yes.
Hello.
There you
Am I-
are. Hello there.
Hi, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but thank you for letting me speak to this item. It's so exciting. It's been so long coming. We are really pleased to have the 6 packages available now. It's hopefully going to be a very simple program for the public to use. In essence, anyone that is interested in building a second unit on their property can email us at designated email srdu@huntsville.ca. And we can help them with the process, figure out if their property is okay for accommodating a second unit, if they need to do any septic work or anything like that, or need an additional connection permit from water and sewer purposes. The 6 packages are all different styles, different sizes. 2 are above a garage. And the smallest one, I think, is about 380 square feet, and they go up to 800 square feet. So it's should be a very simple program for the public to access, and we are hopefully anticipating a lot of uptick. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. I do have one question. What if somebody wants to change the design in some way?
So if there's any changes proposed to the design, they would have to contact the original designer directly and have that plan pre-approved. In essence, the plans are, as they stand now, they are approved for building and they have everything you would need to do it. But if you're changing a window location or changing something like that, then it has to go back to the designer for review.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited. I'm actually going to do one myself.
That's fabulous. And I have to thank Amanda Ferrante, who is our Deputy Chief Building Official, because she was of great, she was the driving force behind this project, and it wouldn't have come to fruition without her assistance.
Fantastic. Comments or questions? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Chair Stone, Director Maxwell. I love this. So much good work. And thank you to Amanda for doing the heavy lifting. I love that you put in some approximate values, construction values. I just have a question of how you arrived at those numbers. In case anybody asks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone. Those numbers were the designers themselves identified that that should be how much these structures would cost at the time that we received the packages based on builder finishes. So obviously, you know, finishing touches can be very greatly in expense as well, but they were the prices the designers thought they could be built for. So.
Any other questions? Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Is there any place that people are going to, I'm sure Councillor Renwick visually would like to go visit these and do walkthroughs to see model homes?
I don't think they're actually built, are they? They're just designs.
No, yeah, they're the designs. I don't know if the designers have used the designs already in other areas or sites specifically for someone, but they wouldn't be available for the public to go in because they would be private units, so.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Stone. Through you to Kirsten. Kirsten, I noticed that there's different fees associated with
Yes.
some of the plans, and I'm some of it doesn't really make sense to me. Can you
Oh, wow.
enlighten me where they came up with those numbers?
Yeah, so our program is very different from other programs that other municipalities have started. What we've done is we purchased these plans individually so that we own the plans. But as most of you are aware, that when you submit for a building permit, the designer has to sign the building permit application to note that the building is designed in concordance with the building code and all those things. And they have liability for that. So this is the fee that each designer identified they would need in order to sign those forms for each use of the structure.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks, Kirsten. I'm very excited about it, and I hope we get some more dwelling units in Huntsville. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Council, two more motions. Moved by Councillor Schumacher, second by Councillor Cluche. Be it resolved, confirmation bylaw 2026-42 be received and passed this 13th day of May 2026. All in favor? And that carries. Moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that we do now hereby adjourn at 2:41 p.m. All in favor? And that carries.